All right, everybody, welcome. I'm sure you're all aware that what you're here for is a discussion of the Act 46 options, which the committee and the school board have been looking at for the past forever. And so what I'd like to do is just lay out a few basic ground rules of how we'll proceed so this moves smoothly and we get the maximum amount of information out to you and the board and the committees hear what you have to say. So one thing I'd like to do is, as we move forward, when a group is, there'll be 4 presentations. First presentation, what I'd like to have is for each group to be able to complete their presentation all the way through before we entertain any questions, just so they have the ability to make a full presentation and not get knocked off into off into the weeds with questions. Then we'll open it up to questions. So you'll see here in the presentation that there's questions, there's explanation of legal and financial implications, and then there'll be a presentation of 2, 3, and 4. What we'd like to do with 2, 3, and 4 is make all those presentations in one shot without any questions, because by the time we get to 4, some of the questions that will come up in 2 and 3 will be answered in 4. So it's kind of a package, and it'll become clear why we want to do that. Once 4 has been completed in presentation, then we'll open it up to questions for all 3 of those options. So if there's people want to move forward, also, as we go along, you'll notice there's a handout. This is the agenda. There's also a breakdown on the back of each of the options, and then there's charts which will be referred to as we go through each of the options, just for your edification. So what I'd like to do now is just hand it over to Stephanie, and we'll move forward.
I'll try the microphone. Okay. Hi. Welcome. Thank you for coming out tonight. I'm Stephanie Amio. I'm the Jamaica School Board Chair. And these are our school board members here. I'll have them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Ann Reynolds, Vice Chair. I'm Amber Burrow. Jennifer Dora-Duque. Pam Tweedy.
And these folks have been on our Act 46 committees along with board members. But you guys can introduce yourselves.
I'm Erica Bowman.
Diane Forrester,
Rebecca Scott.
Jen Connor,
Caroline Pearson.
Chris Robbins.
Our minute taker is Peter Barris. He's over there. We also have Emily Long and Oliver Olson, our state representatives here, and I believe Patty Dixon is here. There she is. One of our representatives on the Leland and Gray board, and Laura Hazard, JDS principal, is here. And Stephen Dunn, our superintendent. You are on my list, I just forgot. So Act 46 is an education law that was passed more than a year ago to respond to the declining enrollment all over the state, and it impacts how schools are governed. Every school district in the state has been impacted by it, and there's been a huge flurry of meetings and conversations among everyone who's involved in education to respond to it. I'm very much hoping that most of you already are somewhat familiar with the law, because we're not planning a full presentation on it again tonight. Next one. So a couple of definitions. A school district is governed by a school board. It's for the administration of schools. So in Vermont, most towns right now have their own school district. So we are responsible for educating students of Jamaica. It gets a little confusing when we talk about unions, so that's why I wanted to have a little definition. So a union middle and high school is when several towns have banded together and agree to share the costs and opportunities of educating their middle and high school students together in one building. And right now, as you all hopefully know, we belong to the Leland and Gray Union Middle and High School, along with Newfane, Brookline, Wyndham, and Townsend. A supervisory union is a group of school districts that are all united around one superintendent and share some services, in particular special ed, and more services in the case of our supervisory union. We are currently in the Wyndham Central Supervisory Union. We refer to it as the WCSU. And it's made up of the Leland and Gray towns that we just mentioned, as well as Dover, Wardsboro, Marlborough, and Stratton. So Act 46 essentially requires that individual school districts like ours combine with others into one board which will govern multiple schools. The goals are to increase educational opportunities and programs for all the students and to increase the efficiency with which we run our schools. Act 46 does provide some financial incentives to do this, and but it also makes it clear that if we don't do it, the state will merge us. They will do it for us. So there's a couple key points to remember. The 4 scenarios that we're going to present, in all 4, Jamaica will no longer have one school board that makes decisions only about Jamaica School. We are going to be merged with other school districts, and we'll be making decisions together about all those students from multiple towns, no matter which scenario we choose, because that's what this whole law is designed to create. We will have several representatives on whatever board it is. So that's something we have to understand. The other thing is all towns in any district, any new bigger district, have to have the same structure, and that means they have to have either all pre-K through 12 choice, or so all the districts in that new district offer full choice, or they all offer, like with the Leland and Gray towns, pre-K through 6, and then a Union High School. They have to have the same structure. You can't have different towns with different levels of choice or anything in one district. So that's what we had to look at when we were figuring out the options. And I hate to say this, because I said this in December, that things are still fluid, but they are still fluid. Things are still changing a little bit. They've been changing fast and kind of getting nailed down rather rapidly recently, but there are still potential changes out there. So even what we're presenting tonight still could change somewhat, especially with some options more than others. Okay. So we invited you all here in December because we wanted to start this conversation about how we could respond to Act 46. We saw those 4 possible responses, and at that meeting we asked people to volunteer, and a lot of people stepped up to join committees to research the options. It started out with quite a few more than this, but various people had to stop doing it for various reasons. But these volunteers have put in countless hours of hard work since January, and they've been very dedicated to uncovering what would be the greatest benefit to the students of Jamaica. I really want to thank them. It's been a huge job. We've been meeting every 2 weeks, and they've been doing a lot of work in between the meetings, and we're extremely grateful for their hard work and also their open minds. The discussions have been fantastic, and it's really been a great process, I feel. So up till now, and including this very moment, the Jamaica Board has not had a position of any kind on these scenarios. So we have 4 options. Option 1, and you all have this, like you said, in your packet, summarized. I'm just going to quickly go over them now. Option 1 is where we would form a pre-K through 12 district with the other Leland and Gray Union towns. So when option 1 people have their turn, they'll go over all these things more. Maybe that's enough to be said about each one, because you're going to repeat all of it. So that's option 1. Option 2 is to join a pre-K through 6 district with Dover and Wardsboro, and we just found out tonight possibly Marlborough. And that would mean having a choice for grades 7 through 12. And then option 3 would be joining a pre-K through 8 school district with Floodbrook and the other towns. They have been moving very rapidly in their process, and that would mean having choice for grades 9 through 12. And the 4th option is joining a pre-K through 12 school district with full choice, and this one has been really cycling rapidly. Sometimes it's a Winhall, Stratton, possibly Searsburg, but they'll get into that more when they talk about it. So those are the 4 options. Okay, so let's see. Each committee is going to present their findings to you, and at the end of the meeting, we ask that you fill out the survey that's part of your packet. So the white sheet at the end is the survey. So we are going to ask you to rank the options that we are presenting here, so that we'd like to know what your second choice is, and 3rd and 4th, if you want to do all that, that would be great. After we read your responses, we're going to then decide which option to pursue for our students. Your voice is critically important tonight, and it will shape much of what is to come for our students. So please don't leave without filling out the survey. and dropping it in the box at the door. Some of you may ask why we have to make any changes at all. I know there's been an article in the paper. There's a few school districts that have elected to try not to make any changes. However, the law is clear, and any districts that are not changing are going to have to prove to the state why they should be allowed a special exemption. And if the state doesn't agree with them, then the state will force a change on those districts. It might be a change they don't like. And in addition, they will lose any of the tax incentives. So this is a quick, this is a visual that Steve Dale, an Act 46 consultant, provided for us on what Jamaica's tax outlook would be in that situation. So the red is it says here conventional merger. That's if we make our own, we decide, we move forward with a merger. This is the increase in tax rates that we would see. This is if the state merges for us, if the state decides, because we would lose a bunch of the incentives. So that's what would happen if the state decides for us, how much our taxes would increase. And this is if we don't merge at all, and there's no efficiencies and no tax incentives. So it's a pretty clear decision in terms of taxes. But our board, we really are keeping mostly in mind the students and the opportunities that we want them to have. So with all these factors in mind, the Jamaica School Board has decided that we will make a choice, we will change, and we'll move forward for ourselves under the law. And in doing so, like I said, we're hoping to maximize the educational opportunities for the students and the benefits for our taxpayers as well. So are there any general questions just about this before we move into hearing from our committees? Yeah, Tom.
If someone doesn't hand in the survey tonight, is there a way they could get it to you guys tomorrow, or you need it tonight?
We really would like it tonight.
Okay.
Tonight. Okay, yes, Patty.
So then anyone who couldn't be here tonight doesn't have an opportunity to
Well, we, on the posters, everything we put out mentioned that the surveys had to be in tonight, and we've had them at the school office and at the town office for people to fill out prior to tonight, and that's been there for several weeks, so. With a deadline. Yeah, we have, the problem is, we have to make a decision by next Wednesday, because we have a meeting with the supervisory union where we're all gonna have to say what we're doing. So we're under a really tight time frame, and that's why we have to keep it to the schedule. Do you want to be doing this question?
Sure.
Sorry.
Quick question. What does the left of the graph represent, the numbers on the left?
That is,
Tax rate.
that's the tax rate. So, yeah, it's done by $1.60, going all the way up to, this is $1.60 here, and then up to $2.40.
Per assessed thousand.
Right.
Over here?
That was one of my questions. My second is, how many kids does this impact? Like, how many kids go to school here that will be impacted by the choice?
At Jamaica School itself?
Yeah.
Because we're all talking about the whole, like including the high school students as well. So, but
If you know that number too.
Currently, we have 65 students, pre-K through 6.
And I believe there are approximately, is it 41? Duran, do you know how many students we have from Jamaica? How many?
I believe about
50. Okay. Any other questions?
Have the towns that are listed here, have they already made their decisions? Or are they in the same position Jamaica is in?
I think that the committees are going to mention that as they go through each option, because every scenario is a little bit different in that regard.
That tax rate, so the rate's gonna go up no matter what? You got 3 items there, 3 lines on the chart.
Yes. They're going to go up no matter what, because there's fewer and fewer students in Vermont. Maybe, Oliver or Emily wants to talk about why the rates are going to go up generally all over the state, but this is the best case scenario for Jamaica with conventional merger that we're talking about doing tonight. And again, this is if the state opposes the merger, we don't have any tax incentives, and that's if we were to make no
What
changes.
you're saying is that no matter what of the 4 choices we make tonight, we'll be at the lower level by having made the choice.
Right. And having made the choice, our tax rate would be lower than if we made no choice.
Stephanie, can I?
Go ahead.
So I just want to add, obviously, any of these projections are based upon certain assumptions. So the assumption for this, which is actually the standard assumption that all the consultants on Act 46 throughout the state are using to project things, is project tax rate increases or the future, is that the enrollment declines by 2% each year, and the cost increased by 2%. Now, you may wonder why that is. You may say in your town, well, we don't think our kids are going to decline, but this is obviously based on a statewide approach to making sure that when different communities are meeting, they're talking about the same assumptions behind the graph. Now, you could easily have my chief financial officer, Bud DeBonis, change this. The board can say, well, or the study that comes subsequently, if you're going to study something formally, say, well, what happens if we think our students are going to stay the same population? That would affect this graph somewhat because you'd have more income. But I'm just pointing out what the assumptions are behind this. And you may say they're not realistic in your view, but at least they're comparing the three different options against the same parameters.
That was my question.
So the more kids you have in school, the lower your taxes are? Did I understand that?
Well,
Is that right?
I'm sorry. Can I hear the question again?
So the more enrollment we have at the school, the more our taxes go down.
Well, it has an effect on your taxes because what really causes your taxes to go up and the cost of education is the student-teacher ratio. And what I failed to mention, Oliver just reminded me, is that the other assumption behind this is that we're going to keep the staff the same. So, if you can become a more efficient operation by having, 17 students in a class rather than 8, this makes a tremendous difference on your costs. So,
the reason that they make that assumption about the staff remaining the same, as far as I can tell, is that they have found that that's what's happened over time. Is our enrollment has declined, but our staffing levels all over Vermont have stayed the same. So it's causing this student-teacher ratio that's, in their view, off balance. Okay. We're going to start with option 1. Option 1 is the only option that we've studied that would keep us in the Leland and Gray Union. And so after the committee presents its findings, you can feel free to ask any questions specific to that option. And then, as Greg mentioned, following that, we'll discuss the process that would be involved in leaving the Leland and Gray Union, and we'll hear from the other 3 options. So just remember, if you need to leave early, please fill out the survey and drop it in the box by the door on your way out.
I don't know if we need this, can everyone hear us? So option 1, like Stephanie mentioned, is the only one that keeps us in the Leland and Gray Union. It's probably the option that if the state was to look at us and say, what should Jamaica be doing? They would more than likely say first option is to merge with the Leland and Gray towns to create a single governance. So basics. What it really means is, to start off, we keep JVS as it is. We stay within the Leland and Gray Middle and High School. We create one single board with all of the towns and all of the schools. So that would be Newbrook, Townsend Elementary, Jamaica Elementary, and Leland and Gray, and Wyndham. Sorry. And that one board, that single board, would oversee all of the physical locations as well as the education, be responsible for the education for all the students within our district. That also keeps us in this supervisory union, which, if we think about the services we have today, we have a lot of shared services within our supervisory union, including a multitude of special education services. So that also keeps our staff the same who provide special education services. That's basic. Okay. So the governance, like we discussed, again, it's dissolving the Jamaica Elementary School Board as it is today. We have representatives based on population or number of students in the schools. That hasn't been figured out yet, so don't ask me how many representatives. On that single board, each town will have representatives proportionate to their population. We'll have a unified budget across all of these towns. So all of the schools will be on a single budget and share the expenses. So our taxes and Newbrook's taxes will all be the same and share the funds based on our per students. Just like we do today with the middle school and the high school. So participating in this particular study, again, is Newfane, Brookline, Wyndham, Townsend, and Jamaica. Those are the towns that make up our Leland and Gray Union. So far, Newfane, Brookline, and Townsend have all said that they will participate in the study, the formal study. Wyndham is leaning towards participating in the study. They haven't made a formal announcement yet, and either have we, based on this meeting. We'll make an announcement. So just to recap what changes, again, it's the Jamaica Village School Board goes away. The new board covering all schools, and then the single budget for the entire district. And just to dispel any rumors, what does not change at this time, now, of course, we don't know what this will look like after we have a single board. We don't know what this will look like if the population continues to decline, and that board needs to make decisions. But what we're going into the study, if we go into the study, keeping all the schools that we have today, Newbrook, Townsend, Wyndham, Jamaica, and Leland and Gray, keeping the same staff, just creating a single governance over all of those schools. We'll be able to keep the small schools grant, which Stephanie alluded to, and also obtain the tax incentives that are being offered for making steps towards fulfilling the Act 46 obligations. No other proposed changes, no matter what everyone else says. No matter what the rumors are. So a little bit about the process. It is a formal study. What we've done here is an exploratory committees. We've had 4 exploratory committees that have gone out and looked at 4 different options, possible options for us in Jamaica. This is one. And there's a formal committee that's being formed amongst the towns in the Leland and Gray district to have this formal committee. If we say yes to being a part of it, we begin to get involved in the study. The study looks at all educational opportunities for our students. That's the point. It wasn't about tax incentives. It's not about saving money. It's about looking at the educational opportunities for the kids, improving them, equalizing them in our district. The study will also look to find out if there's any negative impacts to any towns or districts that participate in it. So if you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to take on some town. I don't know what it is, but basically they say it about Jamaica. No one wants to take on Jamaica. You know, they have some thought that, you know, we have some huge amount of debt. There's a couple of towns that do have debt, which we don't. We have no debt. As a matter of fact, we have surplus. The study steps back, takes a look at the finances, takes a look at what the curriculum is, what are the opportunities that are offered to the students, to see if that can be offered across the board to all students within the district, without taking away from any school. So if a school today has language, that school doesn't lose language because all the other schools don't have language today. You look at trying to offer language at those other schools to bring everybody up to an equalized educational opportunity, which is great. But the more important thing is, if there are any negative impacts, this committee has the right to say, this is a no-go, this doesn't make sense for us. It doesn't make sense to combine our boards, lose local control, take on, incur more debt, or raise our taxes if we're not going to be increasing the educational opportunity. And that's really important. When we say today, if we're going to enter a formal study, it's studying it. It's looking at all of the details and making sure it makes sense. The other thing that Jamaica Village School Board wants to bring to the table and this study, if we decide to join it, we also want to study the viability of Leland and Gray. Because of the declining population, what does Leland and Gray look like 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road? It's really important to take a look to see if we can sustain Leland and Gray and make sure that that's a viable solution for our students. So pretty much, we decided to go no-go with the study. That study committee approves the charter and puts it forth to its towns. So it's kind of out of the hands of the school board at this point if we decide to join the study. The study happens, the study committee decides if it's a go, then we put it to the vote of the towns. And that's when you get to go and vote it up or down.
The state does have to approve it.
The state
before.
approves it, yeah.
So the committee comes up with a proposal, they send it to the state. If the state approves it, then it goes to the towns.
Yeah, I guess we can't be crazy. The state's checking us. So just to recap, our next steps would be, if we decided to go this route, we would formally announce next Wednesday that we were joining the study committee to create a single board or single district for pre-K through 12, because this would involve everybody, all of the elementary schools and the Leland and Gray Union School. The study committee would produce a plan, a go, no-go decision, and then a vote to the town. Any questions about that?
Jen,
Yes.
could you just clarify the exploratory committee versus this study committee that's going to be created? Like, there's differences between the exploratory committee and this new study committee, because it's much more.
Right,
like
it's a legal entity that we would be getting involved with. So the exploratory committees were somewhat informal. We had a mission and decided to move forward and present to the town and get your feedback to make a decision, or present to the school board to help them make a decision what options we might want to enter. The study committees is a formal agreement. When you enter into the formal agreement, that's why it's out of the hands of the school board at that time, and the committees make a decision whether it's a go, no-go. And if it's a go and the state approves, it goes to the towns for a vote at that point. It's a very formal arrangement.
Yeah, so over here, then here, and then here.
Who makes up your study committee? Is it school members, community members?
Both. That will be decided at the meeting when we're forming the study committee.
One of the members has to be a school board member, but the other committee member or members could be just community members. So if people are interested in being on that committee, they should let us know.
CJ?
Yes, how does this save money?
It
How
might
does-
not.
It might not.
That's not what we're studying.
Okay,
We're studying educational opportunities for the kids.
okay.
Yeah. I mean,
So-
one thing that does, if we decided not to do anything, you saw how it obviously saved money. We lose the small school grant and we lose the tax incentives behind, going forward and exploring what options we have.
Well, right, because the graph implied that there was a savings of money, that's why I'm asking the question.
So, we can't say today how it would save money. That's part of what the study will produce. So if there's possibilities to share more services within our supervisory union, as an example, there may be savings at that point. If that single board decides, there's all kinds of things that they could decide. Right now, I can't tell you what will save money. What we do know is, following the Act 46 provisions in front of us, and doing something within the next calendar year, we will at least be able to take advantage of the tax incentives and keep our small school grant.
So that graph was based on the next year?
That graph was based on us making a decision, keeping our small school grant and the tax incentives.
Okay.
Patty?
So my understanding of the study committee is that we do have professional help
Yes, we
with
do.
this to come up with real numbers, solid numbers about this possibility, and there is some money available through a grant for the study committee.
Yes. I don't know, Stephen, if you want to say anything more about that.
Okay. Permission, sir?
Yes.
So there are three kinds of grants that are, well, we had a study grant for $5,000 to do this, what's called a WCSU Exploratory Study Committee. And that really made, the committee was the chairs of each of the school boards in the WCSU. This included Stratton and everybody. The next step is, when this exploratory study is concluded with the consultant, we had Stephen Dale, who formerly was executive of the Vermont School Boards Association, a very well-informed person. I thought he served very well. He will report, and that will be this next Wednesday meeting on the 25th of May at Leland and Gray. And all the boards will gather, and they will, the executive committee will accept the report, presumably, and then the challenge will be, what do the individual boards want to do regarding a more formal study under Act 46. That would require the superintendent to apply for a formal study consultant grant. That would be $20,000 for a large and complicated study, such as Leland and Gray. If there were, two schools getting together, two districts, such as Stratton and Searsburg, or Stratton and Winhall, or something, Dover and Wardsboro, we're considering a K through 6, pre-K through 6 unit. That probably doesn't require as much money. I have to put together a budget for those things and apply for that. But it assumes professional consulting services and the resources to get the public the information they need to know to make an informed decision about how to proceed. What the boards have to do is decide that they are going to enter into a formal study committee, Act 46, with whom, that is with what other school districts. And once they decide that, they can determine the proportion or the numbers of representatives from each of the member school districts. That would be sufficient for me to apply for a grant. And that's the purpose, that's the plan to support good decisions under Act 46. Thank you.
If this option is pursued, would there be additional monies available to improve Jamaica Village School through this option? Through either the incentives or some sort of additional monies that could be used to better improve our school?
So pursuing this option right now we don't know what that budget will look like. We don't know what the school will look like or what the new board makeup would decide to be spent on each individual building. So we couldn't say that at this time.
There's right here.
So I think one thing that's important to remember with changing the governance and consolidating and changing the school board, the scope and the focus of the school board is going to be different. People who are on that board are going to be looking at a much larger population and taking into consideration the needs of not just Jamaica students but other towns as well. So it's going to be a fundamentally different type of board. And so does that mean as part of that there could be greater opportunities for Jamaica students? Absolutely. But it also could mean for other schools as well. You're going to be looking at a whole rather than just each individual town. So it's impossible to say what specific things, but as with any sort of consolidation, you have increased efficiencies, you can have increased savings, and increased opportunities. It's just a more efficient type of operation.
And I'd like to add to that one of the possibilities to save is maybe long-term is actually merging the schools. Like if Jamaica can take an additional 40 kids, I mean, it's a possibility that some schools might actually merge.
That would be looked at, that would be looked at by
But that
new district.
includes, that's the savings, is to get the enrollment up, the numbers up, all under one roof. I would imagine that actually saves money.
Oh, in the back here? Yes?
Just to clarify, under this scenario, if the new board decided that Jamaica School wasn't feasible or economical to keep, they could close the Jamaica School, correct?
Well, the charter would have to be made out for how this governance and how this board would look at school closings. There's been a lot of conversation about what type of criteria we could put into that as we join this committee. It may be something that we request that it goes to the vote of the town before any school is actually closed. But that would all be determined with the study committee and as they lay out the charter, how that would be handled.
I just would add, if that's something that is a concern, that when you're filling out your survey, maybe write that on there.
Yeah, that would
That's something
be,
that you would want us to include, if, want to make sure it was included in the articles of agreement. If you were to join this committee, then, let us know that. That would be helpful.
I see Bonnie.
Okay, Bonnie?
I have a question. If you mentioned like a couple of the other schools that might join with us have debt. If this is done previous and their voters voted on it, do we have to become partly responsible for that debt? Or would they take care of that?
It would really depend on how those articles of agreement were drawn up, but in most cases, yes.
I would think that would be should be one thing put in the article agreements. If they've incurred a debt before the merger happens, they should be solely responsible for it.
I think all around an answer.
Yeah, and Emily and I were just conferring here. It's a good question. There's really no, there may be some instances where there's a small amount of debt that a district could retire before the merger process, but for longer term debt, you should proceed with the assumption that all debts, all surpluses will be merged and commingled under that one newly merged district.
And the districts that we're talking about, there isn't a huge amount of debt. So there's not a huge concern.
Specifically, Newbrook just entered into a 5-year, $300,000 loan to put in heat pumps. That's the only district that has a debt. Well, no, that's not costing them anything.
Oh, okay.
That's not a debt. That's a private investment. But they have a benefit from it.
Right.
They have income coming from it. So they have income from this solar installation. I'm just saying that these are the details of the study that really need to be considered. Also, keep in mind that whereas that particular joint contract school, Newbrook, has this loan that is outstanding, they also have the lowest tax rate and the lowest per pupil cost because they have the higher student-teacher ratio. So the people of that town are thinking, gee, I don't know about these other towns that have higher per pupil costs or lower student-teacher ratios. There are trade-offs here that you have to consider, and I don't want to misspeak about the details, but that's the purpose of a formal study, because obviously those are the things that have to be considered by all of us before we vote. The only other debt that I know of is Leland and Gray, and that one you're already in.
We already have that.
Any other questions? Shall we move on to the second group then?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So Stephanie's going to come up and talk a little bit about, because the next 3 options all involve us trying to get out of the Leland and Gray Union School. So just going to try and discuss how that might happen and what the process is.
Thank you very much. Okay, so the next 3 options, I'll share one important component that they all involve school choice on some level, and having school choice would require us to leave the Leland and Gray Union Millwood High School. So before the other 3 committees discuss their paths, we want to make clear that choosing any of these 3 options will have some legal and financial ramifications. Let's see. Financially, we are party to a bond that Leland and Gray is currently repaying. If we leave the union, we would still be responsible for our share of the bond, which has a remaining life of 12 years. It's about $420,000. The payments are different each year, but it will average approximately $35,000 a year for those 12 years, which is roughly the equivalent of the cost of educating 2.5 equalized pupils. So, and this would be in addition to the amount that we pay to tuition our students to whatever choice schools we are sending them to. So that's the big financial implication of leaving the high school. Legally, in order to leave the union, we have to be allowed out. So the process would begin with a legal vote here in Jamaica to leave that union. So our town would vote whether to leave or not. If that passes, then each of the other 4 towns involved would all need to vote to allow us out of the union. And all 4 must allow us out. So, and then should that happen, the state must then approve the change. So it's a pretty big process. If any of the other 4 towns don't allow us out, we would need to decide at that point whether to attempt to press forward with any other means of leaving the union, such as requesting a special legal exception. There are a few other towns in similar positions considering this path, and we have no way of knowing if it would succeed or not. Additionally, these paths could throw our timing off and make it so that we're unable to sign on to a plan in time to get the tax incentives. So we have to keep that in mind, that, you know, we might make it, we might not. We had known from the start that the options involving school choice would be an uphill battle. But with your encouragement, we decided to research those options anyway, because we really want to be clear on whether you believe choice is something that we really want to fight for. So we're going to present them to you, and here's Caroline Pearson and Jenny Connor for option 2.
Hello, thank you all for coming this evening. Do I have this on?
Yeah.
Do I need it? Can everyone hear me? All right. Okay. All right, so as Stephanie mentioned, we are presenting option 2. Thank you all for coming this evening. So our option 2 is to form a pre-K through 6 district with Dover and Wardsboro. That means Jamaica Village School would remain open for pre-K through 6. And as we did talk about the boards along down the line, there is a possibility still with this option that the school could close. That is not what we're trying to do here, but that is a possibility further down the road. Then grades 7 through 12 would be school choice, and we would stay within the Wyndham Central Supervisory Union, which, as Stephanie pointed out before, means our support staff would stay the same. So it should look the same for the students coming into the school. Then governance. So we would form one board with the representatives from each town, and which was previously mentioned, we do not know the number of representatives at this point. That's to be determined. This board governs all participating schools and ensures equity for all students. Then next, Dover and Wardsboro are starting a study committee in June, and in order for Jamaica to have representation on that board, we need to be part of that study committee. Then our possible benefits is expanded educational opportunities for grades 7 through 12. If Act 46 provides educational equity, then joining with a wealthier town such as Dover may afford Jamaica students more opportunities. And for example, Dover School does have an international baccalaureate program. And both Dover and Wardsboro do have experience in school choice, and they may be able to help Jamaica navigate through the school choice process if we so choose. Then next we are both Dover and Wardsboro, so increased desirability of real estate due to school choice, which both towns have stated there are families moving into the community based on the fact that they have school choice for grades 7 through 12.
We had 2 different real estate agents, we had 2 different local real estate agents come and talk to us about what selling real estate looks like in a choice town as opposed to a non-choice town. And they were very clear that it's easier to sell a house in a town where there is choice.
Then we have our financial implications. So we would still receive small school grants. They would still be available to Jamaica Village School. The payment of the Jamaica portion of the outstanding Leland and Gray Union High School bonds, which is what Stephanie just explained. And then cost of transportation still needs to be figured out. I do want to express from going to other town meetings, school board meetings, Wardsboro does have busing to Leland and Gray. 80% of their students do go to Leland and Gray, even though they have 7 through 12 choice. And the other schools, if anyone chooses to go to another school besides Leland and Gray, it is the parent responsibility for transportation. So next is possible challenges. So it would be an impact if the district decides to close Jamaica Village School. Obviously, the point of this option is to keep it open. And then how our students are bused who have chosen to go to a different high school. And that, from what I understand, would be determined by the town at our town meeting, from what I understand, based on.
I think it would be the district, the bigger board that would decide.
Okay, so I went back and forth with that, I wasn't sure 100%.
No, we confirmed that.
Okay, great. And then that's basically it for us.
So in terms of challenges, I think the group 4 will talk more about the challenges of becoming, basically the challenges that we looked at a lot were the choices the challenges of becoming a choice school. And for Jamaica specifically, we talked a lot about things like this is a school with a lot of families who face significant financial challenges based on our free and reduced lunch rates. So if you offer school choice and these families have a hard time putting together all of the information to make a choice, then their choice becomes Leland and Gray, which may be great, but then is it choice? So, we talked about the need to put something in place to support families actually making a choice so that it really becomes a choice for everyone. So there were a lot of discussions along those lines, but having school choice is going to require us to really, and in these further study committees, to really look at what choice means for this school.
And if anybody has any questions about choice 2, we do request that you write them down and hold them for later. We're going to be showing the other 2 options at this point, 2 other choice options, and then at the end we will all be taking questions. So, thank you.
So Diane and I researched option 3, which is to join a pre-K through 8 district with Floodbrook, Manchester, and others. It's actually a K through 8 district that they're doing. They're leaving pre-K up to each individual town. So pre-K would probably look the same for us as it does now. JVS would stay open, continuing to serve K through 6. And then for middle school, this is up to the new board once it's formed. But there's a potential that it would be a choice within the district, not choice within the district. So Floodbrook, Manchester, or Dorset. Again, that's up to the new board once it's formed. And then it would be full choice for high school. So I did a little mathy to show who's involved to kind of get an idea. Here's Jamaica, and then these are all the other towns that are in this group. It would involve leaving the WCSU and joining the Bennington-Rutland Supervisory Union. So, you'd have the same services that you get with the Supervisory Union, but it wouldn't be exactly the same as what we have now. Special education for JVS we get through WCSU, so that would potentially change when we're in the BRSU. So this group of towns that's formed together to make this big district, they're calling it the Big Red. And it is the mountain towns that go to Floodbrook, which is Londonderry, Peru, Weston, Lambro, Manchester, Dorset, Danby, Sunderland, and Mount Tabor. So it's a massive group of towns. Let's get next. So just to give an idea of how far the kids would be going if we joined this. So here's Floodbrook for middle school, Men's, and Dorset. 13 miles, 19 and 22.
Are you going from the center of Jamaica?
Yes, sorry. I just went from JBS. No, but I mean, it's what, 3 miles difference? But then, you know, people in East Jamaica are looking at it. Right. So for you guys, okay, you're a little bit closer, but for people in East Jamaica, it's even further. So let's balance it out and say middle of Jamaica. I think I have another, it'll show the high schools. But again, it's only 9 miles from the center of Jamaica to Leland Gray, 22 to B&B, and 26 to Long Trail, which seem to be the most common choices, which is why I showed those ones. So immediate physical changes, obviously JVS would stay open. Support staff would change, like I said, because we're changing supervisory unions, so you don't know what that would be like. Middle school potentials, Floodbrook, Mams, or Dorset. They said there's no knowing for sure which one we would get. It might come to who has the most space, which right now Mems has the most space, is what I was told. But obviously that's not set in stone, so it would be up to that new board. Long-term physical changes, JVS could still close if enrollment continued to decline, and that new board could look at us and decide that they wanted to merge us with them. And I guess there's also talk about this regional middle school for the Big Red someday in the future. Oh, I meant to take that out. That was supposed to be gone. I don't really want to. And that was supposed to be gone too. Was that it?
That was it.
That was it. Okay. So is there any questions? I just tried to kind of. Oh no, I didn't talk about one thing. There was something missing. I must have skipped one.
Where they are.
Right. Yeah, there's one that shows. It should be in there. Can you go back? Yeah. Where did that go? Oh no. There was one that got accidentally deleted. But can you leave it on that one? Come back. So they are already way ahead of us. They have their study committee formed already, and they're already meeting. So we could potentially join the study committee, but they are hoping to have their final paperwork to the state by the end of the year. If we want to do this, we'd have to get voted out of Leland and Gray, which I doubt would be done by the end of the year, which then we wouldn't get in the study committee in time. But just for an idea of what I was told what their board will probably look like, which I thought was interesting too, they said it would probably look a lot like what their study committee looks like, which is 5 Manchester representatives, 4 Floodbrook, 2 Dorset, 1 Danby, 1 Sunderland, 1 Mount Tabor, I believe. I'm sorry, it was on a slide. But because we're similar size and makeup as Danby, they said we'd probably have 1 representative on this board, which, I mean, that's not very much. So it's a very big board. Anything else, Diane?
I think that's good.
Yeah. Okay.
Erica Bowman and I studied option 4. Option 4 involves joining a merged school district in Twin Falls, Stratton, and others. It involves closing the Jamaica Village School, offering full choice for pre-K through 12, which of course involves leaving the Leland and Gray High School Union and joining a different supervisory union, maybe. And the maybe refers to the fact that there are 2 district mergers now being studied. The first we might join, which would be with Lynn Hall, Stratton, and Sandgate. It's well underway. They're in their formal study phase now. We would have to join the Bennington Rutland Supervisory Union for this option.
microphone is not.
Can you hear me all right?
Maybe hold it up a little bit to your mouth.
And the second is the union between Stratton and Searsburg. They've just started discussions, so they're far behind. But in this case, we would remain in the Wyndham Central Supervisor Union. Our options depend very much on which one of these is actually formed. We'd be joining late, so we would be pretty much in the position of having to accept whatever decisions they'd already made. Our representation on their board would be proportional to population. And well, let's go on to the next one. One question that we heard loud and clear at the last meeting was, what guarantees do we have that our students would be accepted at other schools? And so the next 3 slides are the answer to that question. And by law, all public schools are required to accept all applicants provided they have capacity for them. And the independent schools are not. They accept students on a student-by-student basis by application. Now, by policy, all of the independent schools that we contacted are very welcoming of all students. They don't turn anybody away if they can help it. In fact, I think Burr & Burton said they only turned one away in the last decade, and that was a case where they just couldn't provide for a special education student. Cycle through these. The next one. The last two, Manchester Village and the Kindle School, are special education schools for students with extraordinary needs. These are assigned by the supervisory union's special education supervisor. Under a full choice scenario, they try to honor parents' choices, but basically they have the final say. If we closing Jamaica School will involve closing this building, the school board owns it without any encumbrances, so there's no debts to be paid off before we close it. But there is work involved in closing it. We would have to dispose of all the equipment, or sell or dispose of all the equipment and furniture. It would involve a certain amount of, actually a lot of upkeep and maintenance the first year while this process was going on. And in the longer term, we would probably end up donating the building to the town, since there wouldn't be any school board left to own it. And the town could either sell it or repurpose it. The town would have to assume the costs of long-term costs of maintenance, which would probably be less than if it was open, but won't be nothing. The way the Wynn Hall and Stratton school districts now handle transportation is they provide buses from a pickup in a Stratton pickup at the foot of the Stratton Hill Road in Bonneville to these 4 schools, Mountain School, Burr & Burton, Maple, and Floodbrook. They charge $800 a student for this service, and we would want to take advantage of that, of course, but we have the additional problem of getting our kids to the pickup point. So we'd have to run a bus from our current pickup sites to the Stratton pickup site. And in addition, if students chose other schools like Wardsboro or Townsend or Newbrook, we'd have to provide for that transportation. And for the high school kids, we'd have to either get them to the Stratton pickup point or to Leland and Gray, which would be the other high school. We're not obliged to pay for this by the state. It's in a quirk in the state law that doesn't require you to get the kids to school, even though it does require you to educate them. But in fact, we're going to have to pay for this if we're going to be serious about choice. You know, with the number of children from low-income families, it'll be no choice if we don't. We put an awful lot of work into this question, the changes in educational opportunity. And we have a very extensive survey which we published online. What we're going to present here is an overview of it. We surveyed these factors here. And I should say a lot of this information applies to option 2 and 3 as well. We looked at the mission statements of all the schools. It's too verbose to cover here, but they all addressed developing the whole child. And it wasn't just a bunch of words. Every principal we talked to was quite serious about doing what they said they were going to do. The core curriculum for all the public schools is required to support the Common Core state standards by law. And these are standards in English language arts and math. And in addition, public schools support the Vermont Framework of Standards for other subjects and the Next Generation Science Standards for science topics. In contrast to the No Teacher or No Student Left Behind program, which got all the flack, these are just standards. They're not instructions on how to teach, and they're not test heavy. They're standards that have to be met throughout all the grades so that students graduate from high school either ready for college or ready to go to the workforce. So teachers are required to make up their own lesson plans and deliver their own lessons to meet the standards. There is a great number of online resources used to make up lesson plans, or teaching aids, or games, and other applications to use in teaching to meet these standards. And I must say that all the schools make extensive use of them. And I think they're a great advance. If we had to pay for all this content out of textbooks, it probably cost a gazillion bucks. So this is a big improvement since when we went to school. The independent schools, both the Mountain School and Burton, aren't required to support these standards, but they do. And they claim they go beyond them in some cases. One thing that really impressed me was, and it's unique, is Jamaica's introduction of a course in computer programming in 6th grade. They use a tool that was developed for the purpose of introducing coding to populations that probably wouldn't be very interested in otherwise, including the children in free and reduced meal lunch programs. The program is one that automates cartoon characters on the screen, which is, appealing to 6th graders, I guess. And in the process, they get to examine the Java code that the tool introduces. So they just sort of osmose that the way they osmose foreign languages when you introduce a that guy. Remarkably, this is very similar to the way manufacturing robots are programmed. So if you put our 6th graders in front of a robotics programming tool, they probably have it figured out in a day and a half. So we've switched from the New England Common Assessment Program to the Smarter Balance Assessment Consortium for testing to see how well the kids are doing at certain intervals during their academic course. And there's a lot of online supplemental material available to them to help teachers meet these standards. The middle schools also all support the Common Core standards, state standards. The Mountain School claims they go beyond this, and in one way they do it is by offering a unified theme, which they weave all their courses into during the academic year. And one thing that stands out is they introduce foreign languages starting in grade 5. And they use, in addition to the SBAC test, they use the standard achievement and NECAP test to evaluate their children. Leland and Gray, because middle school and high school are combined, have they don't really have a break between middle school and high school. Their courses are one continuous sequence from 7th through 12th grade. And within some of the courses are two an advanced sequence and a grade level sequence. And those kids that get into the advanced sequence starting in 7th grade usually end up taking AP courses in 12th grade. They start their language sequences in 7th grade, and one of the things that stands out there is an exceptionally strong Chinese program. Their Chinese teacher was named Teacher of the Year this year.
A few years ago.
Yeah. At the high school level, Burton requires 28 credits, 19 of which are core requirements for graduation. They meet the Common Core standards as well. Leland and Gray currently requires 26, but that's going up to 27 for the current class of 9th graders. They're adding an additional math course as a requirement. Long Trail has a lesser number of core requirements, but then they offer the International Baccalaureate program for the 11th and 12th graders. For those that might not be familiar with it, the International Baccalaureate diploma is a very prestigious degree. It's highly regarded by all colleges, and it's quite something to get one of those. The primary schools all use something called the personal learning plans. These are individualized plans that allow children to progress at their own rate. So those that can go faster usually end up working way ahead of grade level, which is a good thing because they can go faster but not leave their social peers. Leland and Gray has some 8 advanced placement courses they offer. Burton has 12. You can see the list there. Both of them have dual enrollment programs where children can enroll in junior college and get simultaneous college and the high school credits. They also use career center courses, one in Brattleboro and the other in Bennington. And they also allow the children to take accredited online courses for credit. And Longtown, as I mentioned, has the International Baccalaureate program. All of the schools have music and art electives, although there's varying degrees of frequency and a variety of offerings within those categories. Primary middle schools offer, in some cases, instrumental music, languages, technology courses, and there's some really unique ones that are offered, such as yoga and sign language. And Wyndham School gets around the problem of not having enough children to put on a play by sending their kids to the Weston Theater Workshop. In high school, this is one place where Burton really does look quite different than all the other schools. They have a list of electives as long as your arm. And they're well supported with facilities on campus. Leland and Gray has electives they offer in technology and woodworking, and they make use of the Career Center to make up for facilities that they don't have on campus. And Long Trail offers electives in art, photography, drama, vocal and instrumental music, and an International Baccalaureate arts program, which is quite extensive. Go ahead.
She went too forward.
Back up one.
This is what we
No,
just
no,
did.
no. All right. The physical education, all schools meet the national standards for phys ed, which is 2 hours a week. The primary and middle schools offer age-appropriate health education, including in most cases drug awareness information. And the high school programs include one course in wellness or health, it's both the same, and one from a list of physical education courses. Burton can substitute 3 extracurricular activities for the latter phys ed course. After school programs, and at the WCSU all have programs that are called laughter enrichment programs. They involve both extra instruction and as needed reinforcement instruction and academics where necessary and recreational programs otherwise. And in addition, primary schools offer a program for the girls called Girls on the Run. And schools also offer library visits, volunteering, and Newbrook kind of stands out for their emphasis on environmental programs, and they offer a lot of those as extracurricular activities. High school programs include a very extensive athletics program at Burton. Burton has some 16 varsity sports, and a winter ski program, which also includes tutorial help for children that have to compete away from school in national events. Leland and Gray has a laughter program and an addition of athletics and music and a very good theater program, I must say. They have a unique and I think quite good cultural exchange program with China. And they have something they call the Chill Room, which is for children that don't really want to participate in an extracurricular activity, but would like to stay after school and socialize and wait for the late bus. So Long Trail takes a club approach, and they have clubs in various subjects that they offer, and they have an athletic program and a winter sports program as well. As far as teacher qualifications go, we didn't meet any teachers that weren't. They all are highly qualified, which means they have the state required certifications, and they all have education in one form or another in the subject they teach. Many of the teachers have master's degrees, and Townsend stands out somewhat, and all of the teachers have master's degrees. I wrote down something that impressed me for all the schools that we surveyed, and I'll mention a few. Burton has by far the most beautiful campus, including a mountain campus for their mountain campus program. And they do something that nobody else does, which is offer a SAT test prep course. You have to pay extra for this, but they incorporate it in their regular schedule, so it's convenient for the kids to take. The Long Trail School, as I mentioned, has the International Baccalaureate program, and they have an extraordinarily high 4-year college acceptance rate as a result. The Mountain School is the only primary school that implements the town academy model, which serves the needs of all children in their community. Jamaica Village School has a uniquely high participation rate in the free and reduced meal program. This means their students have needs that you probably don't find anywhere else. And by all measures, they're doing a very good job of meeting them. The National Education Policy Center is an education think tank run out of the University of Colorado that produces educational research in education models and methods that are used to address, their main thrust is they want to address the needs of children from low-income families, but without compromising excellence in their education standards. Every year they do a search for a model school that best implements policies that support these goals, and this year Leland and Gray is a finalist. These are some performance comparison statistics. The primary schools took the SBAC for practice this year, so the latest results I can find are the 2013 NECAP results. The grades are aggregated into 4 numerical grades, which 4 is the most proficient with distinction, and it ranges down to 1, which is sufficiently below proficient. The height of each of these columns represent the percent of all the children who scored in that particular number grade. The blue is reading and the red is math. And what you have to say, the first thing you have to say with comparisons like this is you have to associate a very big confidence in it, or margin of error, which has the same meaning of margin of error in the election polls we're bombarded with. With these results because of the very low numbers that are involved in the sampling. The second thing that's significant is what you don't see. Jamaica has about 20% higher rate of free and reduced meal students in Townsend and double the rate in Floodbrook and Newbrook, and yet there's no difference in their performance, at least in this and matter of fact, they're a little better, although the improvements within the margin of error. So I thought that was quite significant. Here's the same thing for Leland and Gray with last year's SBAC test results. The number grades pretty much mean the same thing, and the caveat about margin of error also applies here. You, I guess, would say that the result, Burton's difference in grade 3 for English language arts might be enough to be significant. But if so, just barely. And really both of them are probably doing better than Brattleboro and better than the state. These results can be disaggregated for family income, which basically equates to free and reduced meal status. And you get a very different story for Leland and Gray when you do that because of the high percentage of free and reduced meal students they have. Burton not so much because they have a much lower percentage of free and reduced meal children. And maybe the difference in education, the upper row is the apples row and the lower row is the oranges row, one of the comparisons. Except for that spike in, the proficient column or grade 3, it's pretty much a wash. In the non-free and reduced meal kids, the children receiving free and reduced meal, it looks maybe like Burton's a little better in English language arts, and the math results are just the other way around. These are some statistics on results for the last 3 years in the SAT tests, in the AP tests, and in the post-secondary acceptance rates into colleges or other post-secondary institutions. It's a bunch of numbers for the 3 SAT tests, but the average difference for 3 years and over 3 tests was 26 points in favor of Burton. These were not disaggregated for free and reduced meal, so that might make a difference. And also, the prep courses and SAT preparation definitely do make a difference. As far as the AP statistics go, Burton has about 5 times as many children and is taking 5 times as many tests. but the percentage that passed with a high enough grade to get a college credit out of it is fairly similar. Major difference is this 52% in 2015, and that bears some explanation. Leland and Gray implemented a policy of encouraging children who might be marginally able to pass the AP test with a college level grade to take the test anyhow, take the course anyhow, because they believed that the children would get more out of a challenging course than they would otherwise. And even if they don't pass the AP test with a high enough grade to get a college course, they can still get a high school credit. And the next time they see the course in the college, it'll be a whole lot easier. So that's probably good education policy, not very good statistics policy, though. One thing that really stands out as remarkable is this 100% 12th grade graduation rate at Leland and Gray this last year. They're one of 7 schools in Vermont that achieved that. And they recently started a dropout avoidance, oh, we'll jump ahead. Well, avoidance program that it consists of providing special support or extra instruction for children that are struggling, increasing the number of math courses, algebra courses from 2 to 3. I guess algebra is the nemesis of kids that are having problems. And starting a diversion program for children that are really falling behind and discouraged to the point where they might give up, where they're directed into an alternate path to graduation. So one data point doesn't make a trend, but still one hopes this is the first fruits of that program. I would say it's about time, because the dropout statistics for Leland and Gray, and for that matter, they're typical of the whole state, are pretty bad. And this correlates very strongly with children from impoverished homes, which makes it all the more urgent to do something about it. Burton has excellent graduation statistics and dropout rates. They don't publish their cohort statistics, but really it's pointless with that good a dropout rate. Special education now will be accessed through the new merged district. So they'll be responsible for initially forming the individual education plan with parents of children that may need special education. Parents will have the choice of schools to send their special needs children to just as regular students. And if they do send them to Leland and Gray is obliged to accept all special education students as they do regular students. There's probably little difference in the quality of services provided between high schools, but there's certainly a difference in the quantity. Burton provides more services and they charge more, and they bill a la carte, so the cost is generally higher, and they're not constrained by any school board. If you send the special needs children there, they do what they think they should do, and the school board pays. Billing is kind of up in the air. The Bennington-Rutland supervisory unit bills according to something called the average daily membership, and Wyndham Central bills by individual education plan. So, but this might be all changed next year. There's a bill in the legislature to change the way special education is managed, but both supervisors really had no idea what's going to happen. They did caution me about Winhall's experience. They experienced an explosion in special needs children's population when they initiated choice, and so it's not inconceivable that we would too. Pre-K will go away along with the rest of Jamaica, but there's other similar programs at all the other public schools and the mountain school. The pre-K for 3-year-olds is offered by a number of private schools, but all the supervisory unions have agreements with them to accept tuition payments, so it's available to everybody. Application for special education, for pre-K is through the supervisory union, and the procedures are pretty much the same for both Bennington and Woodland Central. I've said it before, but if the new merged school district isn't willing to pick up the full tab for sending kids to whatever school they choose, and picking up the additional transportation costs that Jamaica joining them would involve, choice is just a word, but it's not going to apply to most of our students. Another thing that change that might affect our students is that the feeding program. Both Jamaica Village School and Townsend have a 3-meal feeding program. Others offer only 1 or 2 meals. Both the Jamaica Village School and Leland and Gray have a free dental program, and we couldn't find that anywhere else. As mentioned before, we have anecdotal evidence from our neighbors in the real estate business that the sale of high-priced homes might be improved a great deal in Jamaica if we implement full choice, which means we could potentially attract more children of school age. It also means we might potentially attract more children with special needs. This has a potential of increasing property values, which is either good or bad, depending on how you look at it. Tax rates are heavily governed by the spending per equalized pupil, and only very weakly determined by the grand list. So if our assessments go up, our taxes will go up. On the other hand, if we attract more students, which ends up in the denominator of all the equations used to calculate tax rates will go down. So the goal, and it's the goal of Act 46, is to drive costs down by decreasing spending and attracting more students. Bringing more people to Jamaica with more money will probably improve the business climate, both for the village businesses in the village, and also for those villages that provide services and products for homeowners. It'll involve loss of this meeting room we're meeting in right now. And it will probably disperse support that the parents have for the school to various other schools. The Jamaica School Board will cease to exist, so control over education policy will be diluted. And friendships based on neighborhood friendships to be fragmented by kids going to different schools. I did a sensitivity calculation, or a what-if calculation, of what would happen to tax rates if we snapped our fingers right now and were in full choice, so that I had to make a lot of assumptions to do this, so this isn't going to be exactly the tax rates that result. By the way, but the span between parents choosing all public schools and parents choosing all independent schools is probably pretty accurate. The all public school rate, by the way, this is the rate with the common level appraisal applied. So if you took that out, it would exactly equal the $1.61 that Stephen Hale study published. Jamaica Village School charges some $2,000 more tuition than all the other public schools, which is strictly a function of enrollment. So if that goes away, but then we get the additional transportation costs and lose the revenues that are specific to the Jamaica School Board, those costs kind of offset, and we're left with a tax rate that's pretty much exactly what we pay now. And then if we went to all independent schools, if the parents choose all independent schools, you can see it goes up to $1.51, and depending on the ratio that are chosen every year, it can cycle back and forth between that range. So, like Forrest Gump's box of chocolates, we probably won't know what we get. The small school grant goes away, becomes a merger grant that's shared by the new school district. I talked about transportation costs before. We're going to have to get the new district to assume these, which could make for a difficult negotiation because it's above and beyond what they pay for transportation. Special education costs will be the shared costs of the new district, and as I said, how they're billed is kind of up in the air. We'll have maintenance costs, which the town will have to assume for the building until it's sold, or if it's repurposed, and I guess, well, how that'll work out. And as mentioned before, we have to pay off the bonds to get out of the Leland and Gray. Finally, there will be impact on other towns. Leland and Gray will take a big hit, no doubt about it. The loss of 20 students represents a 6% decline in enrollment. And if costs don't change, or if they have the same education costs, that'll increase their tuition $900 more or less, which will have to be picked up by the other towns. And also the loss of students could impact somewhat the course offerings that they could make. Also, withdrawal from the Leland and Gray High School Union will trigger a state review of the remaining union, and they could conceivably decide to dissolve the whole thing and do something else as a result. There is a winner, however. Winhall's tax raises will go down anywhere from 20 cents to 11 cents. I'm using the same assumptions as the previous calculation, but not so much Stratton. Theirs might go up a little bit. And this is because their education costs, for some reason, is much lower than ours. And so, but I have to say, if those two merged without Jamaica, Stratton's would go up 2 cents of this difference here. And if they adopt the same cost model as Winhall, they'll go up quite a lot. And then, in that case, our joining them will reduce the costs. And one more thing I might observe, both Winhall and Stratton, in exception to the 2% decline in enrollment rate, had very stable enrollment rates. So if we joined them and had a continuing 2% rate, declining rate, that would turn into a 1% declining rate based on the ratio of students and result in a much gradual increase in taxes.
Okay, everybody take a breath and digest. And we'll entertain some questions for, I guess, the board or the committees. Any questions? Yes.
If the Jamaica Village School closed, where would the children who are currently going to Jamaica School District, Jamaica Village School go? And again, is that a choice?
Well, there are a variety of other schools, elementary schools in the area that they could choose from. Townsend, Wardsboro, the Mountain School, or Manchester Elementary are just a few of the options. Some of those are independent schools, so it would be an application and a student-by-student enrollment. Others are the public schools where they would be guaranteed enrollment, Wardsboro and
Townsend, for example.
I have another question too. The busing of children to different schools is an issue that we consume an $800 per child, just for school. But what about after-school activities? Would they be unable to attend? Would there be just one bus to take them home, and they're unable to attend after-school activities unless there was a second ride home?
Someone know how that's handled at Jamaica School?
It depends on what we convince the Burge School Board to pay for in terms of transportation. As it is now, there's a late bus for after-school activities, and I'm sure we'd want to make sure that they'd pay for late buses for to get our kids home from the various schools that they chose.
But not all schools have.
I think we're one of the only school districts that offer that.
Yeah.
Floodbrook is not, Glen Hall is not. I think we're really unique in that.
Question?
Yeah, if this school closed, what would happen to the teachers?
They would seek other employment opportunities.
It's going to be less teachers.
Right, no,
Where they have to leave Vermont, probably.
well, there's always a place for a good teacher there, we're always looking for good teachers, so it just depends. I mean, you are presenting the issue, but I don't think we can look at this question with the purpose of maintaining full employment of the teaching staff throughout the state of Vermont. I mean, that's really the news. Now, we have retirements, we have attrition, natural attrition, and in fact, some of the school districts in the WCSU have taken advantage of that to reduce their personnel costs. When you have such small schools with such small staffs, it's quite possible to have a majority of the staff being quite experienced and quite expensive for a number of years. And then when the change happens for the younger, newer teachers to come on board. But quite often we choose to hire the best we can get, which may mean a teacher that has a lot of experience. So it's a great question. It doesn't have a clear answer.
I just want to point out that we're taking questions now for options 2, 3, and 4. The last one that definitely talked about closing JVS was option 4, but there were 2 others. I just want to make sure everyone realizes that there are 2 of the other options that involve choice that did not involve closing Jamaica School. So I just want to make sure we're taking questions on all those options.
Any other questions? Yes?
In number 4, at the beginning, you were talking about 2 different possibilities, one Winhall, Stratton, Sandgate, one Stratton, Searsburg. I got a little confused about that. What, I mean, is that, those are 2 things that are still undecided?
They're going on simultaneously.
Okay.
And only one is, Stratton's either going to join one or the other, so they're somewhat mutually exclusive. One is quite serious. The first one's quite serious. They're in the formal study. I don't know whether Stratton's negotiating a separate one to get leverage or they really mean to do it, but they say they're going to do it, so we took them at their word.
And both of those options are open to us?
Yes, they are both quite eager to get us to join them, given that we get out of the Leland and Gray Union.
Okay.
I have a question about the independent schools. If we have school choice and we are, part of an independent schools, do we have an option to be on a board that makes any decisions about those schools or decides policy or anything like that?
No.
Or do they just do that on their own and we just either choose those who have children?
Each of these schools has a school board associated or a board of directors, so conceivably you could volunteer for that, but as a school board, no, we don't have anything to say.
If I can add to Chris's explanation. So, for example, Stratton is a non-operational school district. They have a school board, they elect a school board, they vote on their budget, but basically the board meetings don't have too much to decide except who's a resident of the town or not and what they're going to pay on invoices for special ed services and for tuition. It's pretty short meetings. If you have a small town. It's a long meeting in Winhall when I was there.
Does Searsburg have its own school?
Yes, no, they don't have a school, they're a non-operational
They're like
board.
Stratton.
This latter group that we were talking about, that Chris was mentioning, is all, what they have in common is they have no school. They operate no school, so they're called a non-operational school district. They still have the responsibility to educate the children of the town by paying tuition to the choice that the parent chooses.
Right here?
I have a question. On Leland and Gray, if we go with school choice for the high school, from what I was looking at up there, they don't have a real attractive, not the core classes, but the electives program at Leland and Gray. Did they? It didn't look like there was much electives.
There are significantly less. Well, it's more the case that Burton has significantly more. I mean, they
Well, I was just
really.
thinking, if we go to have school choice for high school, somebody mentioned that we would lose kids at Leland and Gray because they would want to go, some of them, to school choice. I'm just wondering if that's going to affect the electives there, since we're going to have less kids going to Leland and Gray, and we already don't have a real attractive elective program there. It doesn't look like to me.
It could affect it. I should have mentioned one other thing. At Leland and Gray makes some of their core has electives within their core course sequences. So you can take more than one, or choose different courses to meet a graduation requirement. But they have to get enough students to sign up for one of those to offer that course, and it very definitely could affect that. As far as the true electives, yeah, I guess it would affect them.
And I would like to add to that, as I mentioned, that 80% of Wardsboro students do go to Leland and Gray, and they have choice 7 through 12. So most of them do still go to Leland and Gray, but they do have the choice to go other places.
Just to speak to the elective piece, and Lauren, perhaps you can add to this as well, but Leland and Gray does have a pretty robust, I would say, choice of electives. And if a student can't find something on that list, they offer alternatives. So many of their teachers will volunteer on their own time, to support a child, like in a computer-aided drafting course or something like that. And the student can get credit in that elective of their choosing. So even though it might not be a published thing, if a student has an interest in a certain area, many of the staff members will provide a course so that they can pursue that passion.
And who pays for that?
Do you want to add to that, Jordan?
That's part of it.
Really?
Also, at times, students will ask for specific electives that they're not able to accommodate through an independent study. So we will search for an online option. Sometimes it's also a option if they're older enough, maybe they're a junior or senior. And Chris is absolutely right that quite a number of our elective courses can be for core or required credit. So, for example, you have to have 4 science courses to graduate high school, and 3 of them are prescribed. So there's a choice of half a dozen others from the electives that students can take at any point while they're in school.
You had a question?
Yeah, I wanted to know who paid for that extra elective.
The public school can't charge anything extra. You go to public school, that's what you got. So.
John?
Well, as I listened to options 2, 3, and 4, and I made notes, I just had so many questions about the possible consequences of sort of giving our fate over to a new board with proportional number of representatives, where Jamaica could be subject to the decisions of other towns that are much bigger. And it just seems to me that there are so many questions that option 1 has the smallest number of unknowns. And I think that's the safest route to take. Leland and Gray's been educating students in this valley for almost 200 years now. And I don't have any doubt that they can continue to do that well. And the other thing I wanted to say was the talk about the realtors and school choice. I really think that might be some kind of a code for getting to send my kid to people who are a lot like me. And I don't think we should be part of that. I think diversity in all forms is a good thing to strive for, not separating the schools according to various, socioeconomic factors, athletic factors, wealthy towns, poor towns. I'd rather not see us go along that road.
I just wanted to add, Ellen Bischoff is one of the realtors that spoke to us, Ellen and also Julie Lowe. And Ellen couldn't be here tonight, but she did say that if anyone had any questions for her about any of that aspect, she'd be happy to answer any questions. So.
But I think that the key is to offer equity and opportunity. And with declining student body throughout so many schools in Vermont, it just doesn't seem like, unless the population increases, I mean, it's inevitable. It seems it's inevitable, and things have to change. And if we do allow choice, you have a whole new set of issues with trying to get the kids there. Loss of community. There's like more of a disconnect. So I don't know.
Here and then Jeff. Yes.
All I wanted to say was I think that the choice option, everyone's looking at it as desegregating and moving us all around. I think at the end of the day, it's about looking at our children's independent needs and the way that they learn and choosing the right atmosphere for them. It doesn't mean that Leland and Gray is bad or that any school is bad, but it's about looking at our own children and making those decisions based on their needs. And I think that everyone's worried about money and everything else. You can't put a price on this next generation and how we educate them. So I think that it's just important, and I think that we need to not worry so much about the desegregating, but looking at their individual needs. Each child is an individual and learns very differently, so.
Jeff?
Yeah, I had two daughters who went to Leland and Gray, and both of them graduated from college. And I think the presentation of the facts here certainly show that Leland and Gray has done a pretty good job over the years. I also look at this as we're going to have a consolidated school board whether we like it or not. And the hope is that consolidated school board will look at the broader picture and do a better job, because they have to look at the broader picture for all the kids in the district or in the union. And what that means to me also is a better opportunity to look at Leland and Gray and bring it up a notch or two. Why not invest in what we have and make it better than run away from it? And to me, the other three options are running away from Leland and Gray. That's all I see that. At a high cost, by the way, because we're still going to have to pay the bond, we're still going to have to pay busing and all the other associated costs with choice. And we don't have to, our best choice is to make Leland and Gray the best school it can be.
Any other questions?
I guess I'm thinking about timeline. I'm not sure quite how to ask the question, but I know you have to decide something by Wednesday, but what's the timeline after that?
I'm going to address that when I do my little coaching thing.
Unless there's any other questions, we'll do Stephanie to close this out. Okay.
So thank you for coming out. I hope that we all hope that you've learned a lot and that you're ready to tell us how you would like us to proceed. We, more than anything, want Jamaica to feel positive and as united as possible about the choice it makes. So what's going to happen, we're going to get the resurveys that you drop off tonight and the ones that have been dropped off at the town office. We're going to do a thorough review of your responses beginning tonight and continuing on Thursday night. We're going to meet again. And our goal is for the committees to make a recommendation to the board and for the board to decide by next week before we meet with the WCSU board, as we've already mentioned, to finalize next steps for the whole supervisory union. And we're going to make public the results of the survey as soon as we can. I don't know how quickly we'll be able to turn it around, but and our decision and the dates of any votes needed. We'll do that as soon as possible, but I can't give an exact date on that. If the decision is to leave the Leland and Gray Union, we'll try to have that vote as soon as possible, as allowed by law. I think we have to allow 30 days, 30 to 45 days or something like that of a warning period before we could have it. So I think you probably have this picture already, but after we make a decision, we'll join a formal study committee, and that legal entity will create the bylaws for the new merged district, and then they'll submit the proposal to the state for approval, and then eventually it will be voted on by each town that's involved. We would hope to have that vote in Jamaica on or before town meeting day of next year. It has to be in by July 1st if we want to get any of the tax incentives. Anything more I need to say about process? So it's the process that's coming forward will depend on whether we're trying to leave the Leland and Gray or not. It will be, there'll be a lot more to do if we're trying to leave the Leland and Gray Union. If we're not, then it's a fairly straightforward procedure of joining the study committee and just going forward with that and bringing it to you for a vote after the state's approved it. Again, we're definitely going to be, whatever committee we're on, we're going to be trying to shape the bylaws. So if you have thoughts about what you think is really important to be included in those bylaws, please let us know. We definitely want to hear about that. So that's all that. Oh, yeah.
I just wanted to thank Sue Stomsky for arranging the childcare for tonight, because that was really helpful. And also
there's just one thing
I set up the room. I mean, it was tremendous.
Yeah,
help.
Laura did a huge amount, and also Sue helped bring in the chairs. The church lent us these chairs, which was great, and Sue helped deliver them all and set them all up. So thank you for everyone who's involved in that.
Just going back a little bit, based on the responses or the questions that a lot of people had, this group of people did not sit down and say, we've got a problem with Leland and Gray, so we want to get out of the union. We sat and said, okay, what are some of the options that people might want to explore? And leaving Leland and Gray, or staying in Leland and Gray was one of them, and so you had to come up with other options that people in the community expressed that they might want to leave, not leave Leland and Gray, but have the opportunity to send their kids elsewhere. So again, this wasn't an anti-Leland and Gray anything. It was, let's look at options. And I just personally, I want to make that really clear, because I don't think that's where any of us were coming from in terms, not that people on the committee wouldn't like, that there aren't people on the committee who would like choice, but that was not what we were, were supposed to be doing. Yes?
Correct.
I couldn't ask for a committee that was more open-minded and just really looked at all the issues. It's been as I said before, it's been a great process, and you guys have worked extremely hard. Chris, your presentation was amazing and very thorough, and you definitely filled in for places where the other committees hadn't gotten the answers. So thank you very much, very, very much for all your hard work.
And thank you, Stephanie, who did so much work herself.
We ought to thank the board as well. I've been to a lot of Act 46 meetings, as you may imagine. I just want to say that this really was a fabulously detailed and thorough and informative process. And I think you really have to thank yourselves for supporting this kind of inclusive decision-making by community. I call your attention to the videographer. That was anyway. This gentleman over here, Rich. It's going to be on BCTV. It's available. It'll be able to be linked, so anybody who misses can tune into the discussion. All the Leland and Gray meetings, board meetings, are so recorded, and all the Act 46 study committee by the WCSU meetings have been recorded as well. So you can refer to that. And on the Wyndham Central Supervisor Union website, you can see there's a separate category there, Act 46. You can get information linking you to the Agency of Education, and you can also find under another set all the meetings that have been happening regarding Act 46. And we want to thank our legislative representatives for being here too. Don't forget to contact them for any details or explanations. And also ways that the law and education policy for the state can be improved, because that's the purpose of our legislators. Thank you.
So I know you mentioned that at least some of your stuff was going to be online. Is all, Chris, is all your stuff going to be online, or just that one sheet of comparing the different schools? You had so much information up there. I just would like people to be able to access it.
There's 5 files that'll be online. Each file has 3 of those categories that I compared, plus there's a notes section there's a whole alphabet soup of computer apps.
Is
So
that
I have
already
notes,
posted, or is it going to be posted? Do you know?
Well, I sent it to you,
You sent it
so
to me.
you.
Okay, so that's the file. It's going to be posted. That is the file that I sent on. So yes, so it's all going to be linked on the WCSU website if you're looking for it.
And before you go.
Wait, what? Oh, updated as of today. Oh, we're gonna have to update it. There were some last minute changes.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. Don't forget to fill out the survey.